some motherfuckers. All the chess players have a style, more or less. Some players are more aggressive, some more positional, some prefer endgames, some are more theoretical. And in the elites happen the same. Of course, all the elite players dominate all the areas, but there are players who are better in some areas than others. And I think that in the attacking and in goes aggressive and attack the opponent's skill, I think that Mamedyarov is the best player of the world. And this game proves it. So let's analyze the game that he played in the second round of the European Team Championship against Nguyen. Uh, Azerbaijan finished in the second position with Mamedyarov in the first board. So this game was so useful to take the silver medal. Okay, Mamedyarov opened with c4, and Nguyen goes e6, knight c3, d5, d4, transposing to a queen gambit from a English to a queen gambit, knight f6, c takes. And nowadays everybody is taking with the knife here. It's a fashion move. All the knife, e takes d5 was the main move. Bishop d5 and this card bad position. But the fashion move now was knight takes d5. Maybe one day I'm going to make a video only explaining this move because that's everybody's playing now. Knight takes d5. Okay, e4, of course. Knight takes b takes and c5. Break in the center. Rook b1, bishop e7, knight f3, sword castle, bishop c4. Until here everything is normal, of course. Normal development of the pieces. Okay, a6 here was other possibility because if sword castle b5 and take and knight c6 and a6 a4, I don't like this move. I prefer sword castle because if a4 just queen c7, and here you don't have queen d2 defending because take and bishop d7 and black is fine because it's attacking a4, so you should go back to d3. But okay, Nguyen plays queen c7, who is a fine move. Queen e2, a6, sword castle, d5, bishop d3. And here Nguyen came with a novelty who is knight c6. Novelty. Everybody here plays knight d7. But he came with the move knight c6 surprise. And here Mamedyarov stopped to think a little bit and he find a very good move d5. Sacrificing a pawn with the idea of sacrificing a pawn, of course. a4 was other interesting, b takes and d5. More or less the same idea. 95 here bad because take and c4. Open this diagonal for the bishop and attack the king. But here black have a great move c4, bishop c2, 95, take, bishop e3, he takes d5, bishop d4, queen e6, f4, f5, e5, a3, rook b6, queen d7, g4, and the position is slightly better for white, but more or less equal. But of course, it's so difficult. I prefer white here. I think white have many attack here in this position. I really like the white position. But okay, Mamedyarov choose d5, which is a fine move. 95, knight takes, queen takes, and the Mamedyarov idea was just fine, sacrifice the c3 pawn, open more diagonal for attack the black king. Mamedyarov style was also clear. He's going to attack your king. He doesn't want move, just kill your king. Queen c3, bishop b2, queen a5, d6. The idea is attract the bishop to the d6 square to then attack at the same time that you are opening diagonals. Of course, black cannot retreat the bishop because queen e4, attacking e7 and attacking the rook on a8. So for that reason, Nguyen plays c4, bishop h7, king takes h7, he takes d6, queen b6, and king h1. And here Nguyen is still in preparation. Here Nguyen have more than an hour and a half, so black have everything prepared in this game. And his preparation ends with f6. That is the last move of his preparation, and this is that what we see. And here we are in the move 21, and so that's a good preparation for black to prepare with 21 moves. The only problem is that here I think that white position was pleasant to play because okay, black have a pawn up, and then because the d6 pawn is going to be defended with, for example, Mamedyarov play rook d1, so black have a pawn up. And these two pass pawn, no, this pass pawn on c4 and the help of the b5 pawn. But the problem is that the d6 pawn is so strong and the black king is going to suffer so much. And white have many ideas of attack the black king. So the machine say that the position is 0-0-0, I say completely equal. But I think that white is more pleasant, and I think that it's easier to play for white, and especially for Mamedyarov, who is specialists in the attack. So let's see how they continue. Okay, Mamedyarov played rook b1. Rook f3 was possible too. Here there are two responses: king d8, rook d1, queen c6, rook g3, rook h7, defend, or queen c5 was the other option, rook h3, king e8. Here, for example, f5 is a draw with queen takes, rook f1, and this continuous attack of the queen. White have no more. Or just rook d1 playing, but I prefer rook d1. I think it's more flexible. Of course, you're going to play rook f3, but if you have this rook misplaced on d1, I prefer to just game the rook to the game, place well all the pieces, and then start to improve the rest. But first, collocate place in a good position of the pieces, and then start to create something with rook f3. And here in Nguyen, that's the first moment where he start to think, and he think for half 30 minutes, and he plays the bishop in a wrong square. He plays bishop d7, a two passive move, just defending the pawn. And the black plan here is not defending the sixth pawn. You should place in the bishop in an active square. Control the full diagonal. Sorry, control the full diagonal. Stopping rook f3. This is so important. Stop the move rook f3. And okay, you can think what you are going to do if queen takes e6, of course. Just rook a8, attacking the a6, the d6 pawn. With rook f1, here queen g6, attacking g2, queen x3, king j, bishop e3 can be a possible defense move, but that's what black should play, just in an active way. Now let's see, the bishop is well placed, this queen is well placed, both are attacking the e2 pawn, this queen is in a defensive task, the rook was developed on d8, the bishop is in a defensive task too on a6 on a3. So only to give one pawn. So the pawn that you have extra. So you are not going to lose a pawn. You are only giving back your extra pawn. Sometimes when you have a extra pawn but a passive position was a better defensive resource to give up the pawn to free your pieces and active your pieces, but just giving your extra pawn to your opponent. But okay, and William plays bishop d7, mistake. And here Mamedyarov plays rook f3, which is a good move. But I don't know why he don't play bishop takes f6, which is maybe the most logical move in this position. Okay, let's analyze the two recaptures. If rook takes f6, it was obvious that queen e4, king j, queen a8, rook f5, and just go back to e4. And white have a full exchange up. It's a strong pawn on this. Sorry, a moment. Okay, this is strong pawn on d6. This pawn are not going to make nothing, so the black king was not exposed. Not exposed. So I think that white is completely winning here. But rook f6 here was the only move because if g takes f6, queen h5, rook f3, and yes, rook g3 is the next move, and it's just checkmate. And you cannot defend it well. So I don't know. For example, rook a is not possible. Yes, rook g3, king here, queen e6, king here, and queen e7, and white wins the rook. And of course, rook here not possible too because rook g3. So yes, g takes f6 was just winning, and rook takes f6, just queen e4 and take the rook. So of course, rook f3 is still really winning, but I think that bishop takes f6 was easier to convert the full point. Okay, rook f3, you are still winning, but you are not closing the game. King g8, good defensive move, and here Mamedyarov missed in the correct square to place the rook. Was better rook g3, just trying to attack the g7 pawn, because he goes for a plan to enter with the queen on the h5, placing rook h3 followed by queen h5. But was better to put the pressure into the g7 pawn here. Now followed by, of course, queen g4 was the following move. And then if he defends here with a rook, bishop f6. Bang. So for that reason, after rook e3, e5 was necessary to defend the g4 square and close the b2 bishop. F takes e5, rook a e8, h4, and white is winning here. For example, if f takes, bishop e5, rook f7 and queen b2, is rook e6, rook f1, queen c5, we are still attacking with h5, h6, h5, just a6. So that's the right plan. It's not only queen g4. The idea of playing the pawn on a6 was so strong. But okay, rook h3 is still attacking, but that's a mistake. Now the position is equal again according to the machine. But black should create something in the queen side. The move e5 here wasn't the best. Here the black plan should be create in queen side. Before, for example, queen h5, c3, queen h7, and just white should give continuous check because before c3 was so annoying. So I have nothing more than continuous check. Maybe the Mamedyarov idea when he played rook h3 just maybe make continuous with queen h5, queen h7. He maybe evaluate bad the position and he realized that the position is equal, but he have the advantage with rook g3. And here c3 was the other option, followed by e5 here. So replacing this pawn to open lines. Okay, but okay, he goes with e5. And here rook h5 was stronger. Here with rook h4. And now yes, the position turns into 0-0. Rook a8, e8, sorry, and good move, placing well the rook. Queen h5, going for the king. But okay, my Mamedyarov idea was just make continue because he haven't anymore. Okay, queen f2, aggressive move, attacking the rook, placing the bishop under attack too. So why just to give continue repetition and make a draw? Queen h5 and why have nothing more than continue check. For example, if take, but you finally should make continue. What happened? That here, Nguyen goes crazy, and maybe he miscalculates something, and he tries to win with d6. Of course, with king j he knows that he has the draw in the hands, but he decides to go for the game and try to win with g6. With of course, king j is a dead draw after yes, a continued repetition. But here with g6, who is a completely losing move, just because the moves that Mamedyarov made were only moves to win. The rest of move lost, but Mamedyarov make the right moves to win the game. Queen e7, good. King e6, and queen g6. The idea is that you cannot take on h4 because checkmate, and you cannot take it here because checkmate too. But rook e8, queen e4, and clearly that the checkmate is still in the position because you cannot play queen h4 because f5 and the queen is hanging. So I don't know if maybe he evaluates. Of course, after when you play g6, you should calculate the check. I don't know if he maybe missed that here white is making checkmate, or maybe he evaluated around this position. I don't know what Nguyen think to make the move g6, but it was so strange. Yes, the position looked like black have a so unsafe king. Okay, the move of Mamedyarov are only moves all, but okay, you should calculate better in these top levels. So he just take the bishop to make something, but just maybe he evaluated wrong his position. I don't know what's happening in Nguyen minds to play d6, but just queen b2, f5, king f7, rook a7, king f8. For example, if it is rook d7, just queen d5, rook h8 segment, so king f8, rook d7, and here Nguyen resigned. Was an amazing game because Mamedyarov always plays also aggressive, so aggressive, like Kasparov. Once I hear a person who told me that the Russians, no, the Soviet Union have more or less the same school, but from the people from the East plays more passive and more technical, and the people of the West of the Soviet Union plays more aggressive. And that's more or less true because, for example, Sirov is from Latvia, Kasparov, Baku, Mamedyarov, Azerbaijan too, who are the more aggressive players. So that could be too. Aronian, who is more decisive too from Armenia. So great game of Mamedyarov who helped his team to win the silver medal in the European Team Championship. So I hope that you enjoy the game. I'm going to post more videos of the European Team Championship because it happened Many great games. So let's see the videos. Bye bye, motherfuckers.